Please pray with me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts draw us closer to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. At my ordination 29, almost 30 years ago, one of the preachers called this bumper sticker theology. And then after he said that, and people were kind of like, well, that's sort of offensive. He said, no, we need it sometimes to keep it really simple, to be really basic. Now, of course, there's nothing basic about acting justly. It's not always clear how to do that. And sometimes unconsciously, we're engaged in injustice and we don't even know it. Obviously, loving your neighbor as yourself, loving well, haven't we all failed at that a few times? Like daily? And today I want to focus on humility. Because in this culture, in the culture we live in right now, the idea of humility has been getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. We are living in probably one of the most narcissistic cultures ever created on this earth. I don't know. Maybe ancient Rome was just as narcissistic. I don't know. I wasn't there. So I can't really make that consideration. But I do know that being humble has gone out of fashion. Instead, hubris is the watchword. Bring all of who you are to bear on a situation, regardless of the outcome or the consequences. And it's important, especially for those of us who at various times have been on the underside of the world, to not confuse humility with humiliation. I'm not saying to anybody, go humiliate yourself. Sometimes, and Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, especially in like the domestic violence thing, fake humility may keep women in a dangerous situation, right? And there have been churches who've literally preached that they should do that. They've turned the other cheek into the just let yourself be a punching bag. And I am not saying that. Humility is very different than humiliation or making yourself someone else's victim. Humility, when practiced the way I think Micah is thinking about it, is literally to not think so much about what you need as what you can be in the world. Because here's the deal. If you sign up for humiliation, again, I'm going to use the women you've worked with over these years as a great example. When you let yourself be victimized by others, you have given up your power to be who you should be in the world. And we need everyone to be their best and fullest self. So when I say walk humbly, I'm not saying don't be exactly who you are. In fact, be powerfully who you are. I think a lot about Gandhi when I think about that kind of humility. There's no question he was one of the most humble leaders on earth, and yet one of the most powerful. did not allow himself to be the unconscious punching bag. I also think of my many, many colleagues who were arrested in Minneapolis over the last 2 days, on their knees in -20 weather, kneeling on ice. Well, that is not weak. In fact, that takes a fair amount of strength, or insanity maybe, but I'm just saying that is not weak, and yet they were humble. They were nonviolent. And it's important to know that there's a difference between lack of conflict and nonviolence. Lack of conflict means everybody's just kind of getting along to go along, etc. Nonviolence means there's also the presence of justice. And that means saying things that may get you in trouble, doing things that may be challenging to unjust systems. That means getting on your knees because they killed Renee Good. That's what it means. And instead of picking up guns and firing on the people with guns, you get on your knees in -20 and kneel on ice. That's not weak. I dare some of those ICE agents to do it. I don't think they could. Bonnie brought a flower for Renee Good, and we've had other people murdered recently, so we're definitely thinking about those folks. But I'm also thinking about some of what Sarah McLachlan says. The world is on fire, and it's more than I can handle. It's more than I can handle. I bring the water that I'm able, even more than I can handle. And she says, but stand by me. Because it's together that we have the collective power to stand even against injustice, even in -20 weather, even on our knees. Gandhi would never have freed the Indian continent except that the people were with him. The people followed his example. They made their own clothes. They walked up to empire and said, no, we want to be free. Some of them died for it. More people will die in this country before this struggle is over. I know some people, a couple weeks ago I said something in the prayers about I feel like we're in a civil war. And I want to amend that statement. I think there are folks in this country trying to start a civil war. And we get a choice about how we respond. And this is not judgment on our ancestors or forebears in the American Revolution or the Civil War and other places who have taken up arms to defend their communities. I understand that. And I'm also, it may come to that. But as people of spirit, trying to do what Jesus would do, Terry, right? Trying to do what Gandhi would do, I want to make sure that we try nonviolence first and foremost. Because ultimately, that's what wins. Love wins. And this is what Micah is saying to the people who are coming back after the exile. And maybe they were spending a lot of time setting up fortifications, preparing for war to protect themselves so they would not be taken back into exile again. And he reminds them, oh, mortal, which, trust me, the Hebrew, it's more like, you idiot. You foolish mortal, you pathetic human. Oh, mortal, it doesn't really capture it, but you pathetic human. God has told you what is good. It's not about making war. It's not about defending yourself against enemies. Instead, it's about loving your enemies. It's about acting justly. And it's almost impossible to live those first two things without a sense of humility. I think it's true when Micah says that at the root of all sin is that selfishness. Again, don't go be a victim. Don't go be a victim. Don't say, okay, I'm just trying to keep the peace, so beat me up all you want. No, thank you. Speak your peace. Do your best to be just, to be loving, even when that's not what's coming at you. And you will find that path through a cultivated humility, through a sense of understanding that you are just a part, and you're just going to bring what water you're able, and you're going to do your bit. So some of you know that on Friday, I went with 4 other clergy women to visit Target managers at Pinole and Richmond. And the clergy call that brought over 1,000 clergy, many of my friends in the United Church of Christ in Minneapolis, and it was all I could do not to go. And those of you who are in Live Edge readers know that Mary Peters offered me a bedroom. I have a bedroom in Minneapolis. The instant I need to go, I'm going. I already have a bedroom reserved. And she's right in the middle of it. Her church, St. Joan of Arc Roman Catholic Church, has a community preschool, not run by the church, but it's right there, and Renee Good's son goes to that preschool. The preschool is closed because people threatened the children. It was not safe for Renee Good's child or the other children to be in school. I'm not trying to bum you out. Because trust me, I'm as bummed as you are. My heart is breaking in 1,000 pieces. And I don't know what to do. The same clergy call that many of my colleagues went to Minneapolis, kneeling on the ice, getting arrested, backing up the people of Minnesota who have just been at it for a long time now. And they're really tired. They needed more help. Some of us said, well, I really can't go. But this same clergy call also said, wherever you are, go to Target, because Target is headquartered in Minnesota. And Target has allowed ICE to come into their parking lots and arrest their customers and their staff members. And Target corporate told those managers not to resist, not to say you need a warrant to enter this store, not to ask the questions that are their rights. And so we went to talk to these managers. And at first they're looking at, 5 women in clergy drag in the middle of a Target, and they're wondering, oh my God, what is going to happen? At first they looked at us kind of like, hi, how can I help you? And when they realized that, yes, we wanted them to give this letter that would bubble up to corporate Target, and clergy all across the country were doing this. So imagine if Target corporate, in addition to meeting with the leaders in Minnesota, also gets all these letters from their frontline managers saying, what do we do when ICE comes? We said to them, do you think about that? Well, they kind of nodded. What'll happen if they come here and they're in the parking lot? Do you have a plan? What's it going to be? You're the manager. I said, I'm the manager of a cafe. I'm thinking about this a lot. I don't want people to come from my customers, come from my staff. And we already know that they don't really care if you're a citizen or not. We already know that. But what if armed, masked agents come here? Well, yes, I'm going to stand in the door and I'm going to say, I want to see your warrant. And I have looked and trained myself and learned what should be in there and should not. And I will hold my ground even until I get a lawyer to give me a second opinion. You're not coming in here. You'll have to go through me. This is a public place, but you have to have a warrant. We've said, not that we're banning all people here, but we have had an informal policy in the farmers market, and we haven't gotten all the signs up yet, but we're just saying no weapons. No weapons. Nobody needs to bring a weapon in this building for any reason. I don't care who you are. And that keeps armed, masked agents out too. In fact, they can come if they like a cup of coffee. I'd be quite happy if they'll put the guns down and come in. I'll say, come sit at the good table with us. Let's talk about this. Are you okay with this? Would you maybe want a different vocation? Can I help you find a different job? Richmond Police is hiring. You can still be in police, but you can do community policing with some justice. Richmond has gotten their murder rate down farther than any time in their history. Not saying everything's perfect. I'm just saying, doesn't have to be like this. Doesn't have to be like this. So it may be a bumper sticker, but I leave you with act justly. I love how Tricia Watts says it. Act justly, love tenderly, and walk or kneel or sit or type on the internet humbly. This is a special moment. It's a special moment. And we've built a container here where the whole community can be drawn together, not just to protect ourselves, but to model and live in the world we want to live in. It's a happy thing in there. I just want more of that for everybody. Just world for all is what we say. So we live in it and we build it, but we're also prepared to stand up, to kneel down, to speak when it's difficult to those who would destroy it. Stand together. Bring the water you're able. Amen.